Hello everyone, and welcome to our next installment of the Santa Cruz Symphony's digital series, Symphony at Home. I am just so pleased and privileged to get to introduce three of our most special guests possible, Luminance Trio. We have our principal trumpet, Matthew Ebisuzaki. We have our assistant principal cellist, Saul Richmond-Rakerd, and we have harpist extraordinaire, Amelia Romano. Thank you so much for joining us today, guys. Something so special about Santa Cruz and thinking about how it's a real center for the arts in terms of disciplines connecting and communicating, improvising off of one another. And I just love the fact of how Luminance was kind of born from this intersection of the arts in Santa Cruz. I'd love for you to talk about just the origins of your wonderful group and how the experimentation and the whole Santa Cruz scene musically inspired you to form this.
Our roots go back before I joined, and the focus was much more broad, much more jazz, Latin, improvisatory.
A bit more groove-based and funk as well. Yeah, I have a little bit less traditional background in world music and Latin American music, and growing up in harp ensembles, because the lever harp, folk harp, Celtic harp, they're all the same type of harp generally speaking, doesn't fit into the orchestral setting. I was encouraged by my childhood harp teacher, Diana Stork, to compose and improvise when I first started playing.
This current permutation of their creative group was born out of our meeting and interacting at Santa Cruz Symphony rehearsals early on and getting to meet Amelia when you would come down for some of the shows and interacting that way. My role in coming in, since they had such wonderful music written already, was to kind of figure out how the cello would fit in and being able to bounce back and forth. We each have different interests and fortes that we bring to the group, and we're all flexible and willing to go into each of those different worlds.
When we started collaborating together, it was a really fun challenge to take two worlds and meld them. I would look at sheet music and want to be creative with it when Matt was hoping I'd just read what was in front of me.
I can pluck and kind of match Amelia's timbre. The harp and trumpet is a really unique and wonderful combo that they can harmonize and melodize with each other. Both the trumpet and cello can be lyrical instruments, while Amelia can kind of set down some structure. You'll hear us kind of, it's like a little amoeba kind of moving in different ways, and different things come to the fore. And
the sound that we now reference as luminance, this idea that we can do both.
Finding your genre, we were trying to do that for a while, and we just gave up.
I absolutely love the instrumental combination, the timbral combination. It's so unusual and it's uncanny, and the types of reimaginings of certain tunes that we know, but of course the original compositions are such a special part of this, and one of my favorite things about what all three of you do, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
A lot of my compositions start out as solo harp works. I'd play the parts and then they experiment with what they hear, legacy. I actually wrote this one a decade ago.
Wow.
When I had come back from working at a music school through the Playing for Change Foundation in Cape Town, South Africa.
Wow.
And I learned about the environmental activist Wangari Maathai from Nairobi, Kenya, and her work empowering women in her country and around the globe. But she passed away right when I returned in 2011. So that piece was actually dedicated to her work and her legacy.
Yuba was
The first joint original composition that brought our two worlds together. It opens, you'll hear, with more of a classical melody played on trumpet, and then it goes somewhere else, which is more the Latin flair of my upbringing, and that was our fun moment to see that they're not two distinct worlds, but they really can come together.
I think it's so contemporary in the best sense, in that music ultimately, I think in all of our musical heroes, they're representing music of the time. And I've heard historians talk about it, the fact of how music more accurately represents any 10, 20-year time frame than just about any other medium. It's just such a vivid raw portrayal of the time and place in which it was created. And that's one of the things I love so much about your ensemble and how you look at music and deal with life through it. And it just creates such a more honest picture of the time we're living in and the influences we're absorbing and constantly putting through our own prisms of interpretation.
I was in Aspen for the Aspen Music Festival. It had been some time since we had written anything new. And during the summer, you have all these cottonwood trees. It looks like snow has blanketed the ground. I was just thinking about, okay, everything is falling, 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 and I didn't want to do that typical, well, falling thirds. I wrote out this melody, I wrote out her background part, and then Saul and I were working together, coming up with the...
I think we wrote that duo section during a symphony set.
We did write that
we
duo
had
section.
like a little couple hours before a concert, sat down at the coffee shop and...
It was right on that main street downtown.
Incredible. And talk about an intersection with the symphony, the musical discovery that you guys have so clearly been involved with, and especially seen it blossom during this pandemic, and you're making the most out of all of this. You're really making lemonade in terms of discovering these new possibilities of old tunes, discovering more creativity in terms of your own compositional output is so inspiring.
We all strive to feel like we're expressing ourselves in the purest way through our instrument, and the more colors you have to work with, the more in sync you are when you really want to get this sound and you know exactly how to make it.
There are so many things that both of these musicians do that it doesn't make any sense to me. I got one note at a time and that's all I can think about, and you're going...
One of the main questions we get at shows is about the lever harp and what she's doing up there with all the levers, because it's very different than the harp that most of us know, the pedal harp that you see in orchestras where there's not all this activity going on.
It becomes a visual dance and movement or distraction depending on the listener and how they view it.
Even understanding the mechanics of each other's instruments and limitations, and also, like Amelia's saying, willingness to kind of push ourselves into how someone else would write for your instrument that doesn't necessarily know the mechanical limitations. We get stuck in like writing things that would definitely be comfortable for writing for our own instrument. I had never arranged for lever harp or trumpet before, and so we bring the parts and I was like, I don't know if this is even possible on your instrument, like show me where it's possible, or if this is a crazy shift, maybe we'll rewrite the music a little bit to make that more doable and make the other two instruments have more going on. And
So you just have to weave it a little differently. I'm a bass line, so that Saul can take a solo, and you can add the color up top, or on the melody. And then I gotta, immediately when I'm done, jump into a harmony, because Saul takes over.
One of the jokes with harp is you tune it, and then it's in tune, and then you play, and you don't have to think about the tuning, where they are constantly adjusting. And yet, how do we all stay engaged and excited and in the work when sometimes we feel like we're in a bit of loving combat with our instrument?
These musical explorers like you that really exemplify what's possible in our art form, because we reanimate so many masterpieces, and that's so vital to the process, but absolutely as vital is this contemporary explorational part of what you do.
yeah, our instruments are getting more in touch with the elements during COVID, for sure. All the rehearsals and concerts outside.
Yeah, the day before a show, and I'll hear like a pop. And the whole house now knows, like, did you just break a string? Are you gonna be okay? Should I turn on the heater? Is that gonna hurt it?
Oh.
But it's kind of the running joke in the household now, because I've probably went through 12.5 strings in the last year between my two harps.
Well, Beethoven, in helping to advance the development of the piano, went through a lot of strings himself, so the musical pioneers.
For us, we always had our own projects going on. I was out doing a lot of different symphony things. You were playing a lot of harp gigs. You were out traveling. To be able to find a moment amidst this chaos where we could work on our craft, it was a point of cohesion for this group, and that's kind of what we were able to do, is define our group expression.
this modest superhero over here is just one of the greatest cellists around, and for him to be recognized in this way is just one of the most gratifying things to see, because Saul is the celebrity cellist in San Francisco during this pandemic and brought joy and comfort to so many people through these incredible series of concerts that you gave. And it was just, there's some justice in the world when good people get the spotlight on them like you have. And thank you for sharing your joy with everybody like that. And just, yeah.
It's very kind words, thanks. There just wasn't a connection with an audience, regardless of how high the counter goes on the video, so you can see how many people are tuning in. It's just not the same as feeling the energy. One day I just decided to pop out on my porch in San Francisco and just play for the passersby. And at first I was worried I'd be bugging the neighbors, but people seemed very appreciative. I got a lot of really heartfelt thanks that day, and that was late March, and I went out once a week at least for 7 months without missing a week. Got fortunate, I think, that there was a little attention drawn to it by some local news articles, and then we became one of the slow streets, the street that they shut down a handful of streets throughout the city. Very little car traffic, and people could spread out in the street, and then at that point they became kind of bigger concerts, and people could kind of post up for the whole hour and a half or 2 hours every week how I was playing, and it's become a really, really wonderful, loving community out there on Page Street in San Francisco. And the concerts were as important for me as they were for the audience members. Feeling the connection with our audience, we love playing music and we would play it on our own. I think any musician will tell you that so much of the thrill is feeling that emotional connection with the audience members and knowing that you're taking people to an emotional place, whatever that place may be. That's really been keeping me going through COVID.
It's just amazing demonstration of what an individual can do and the difference an individual can make. Giving people an opportunity to connect more than they've had opportunity to do otherwise is so special, and really enhance community and show what the power of music is capable of in stressful, unusual times.
Even past the end of this mess, I think.
Yes.
The porch shows will stick around.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. You've created a community of sorts, special to that. I'd love to touch a little bit about special Santa Cruz Symphony memories.
Yeah, it felt very much like a community right from the start. Probably speaks to why it's been so easy for all these creative projects to come out of the Santa Cruz Symphony. More so than with any other group I play with, it really feels like a family, and it's a lot of fun to be around everyone, and there's a lot of socializing outside of rehearsals and getting to know you two guys right off the bat and just kind of clicking right away, and then getting to meet you, Amelia, through some of those outings later on when you would come down during rehearsals or shows. That's the stuff that really sticks with me, apart from obviously some of the great musical memories. The Mahler symphonies we played, or Rite of Spring was a particularly powerful one for me, and it's just really the collegial atmosphere that we have here is really unique.
It is. It's about family, and when you get good synergy and good chemistry, then so much more is possible.
Yeah, it is.
And it's fun for you. You're like such a vicarious member of our Santa Cruz Symphony family, but we're always thrilled to know that audience members like you are part of the process.
Yeah, I think Santa Cruz has been my invitation back into the classical world at the right time. Given I chose an instrument as a child that really didn't fit in that realm, I just went in other directions, and it's been nice to come back to it and hear the music again, see it up close, and then get to kind of go in and back out again, big picture, small picture, and just appreciate the depth of the genres that are covered. The fact that you guys connected, and that there was an opening, and then that Saul and Matt had just started at the same time together, and that we all just personality-wise jived really well together.
I'd love for you to tell us about what your current album plans are.
I think we're shooting for early April.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Things for folks to look forward to.
Yeah, and then we'd love to do an album release. We'll come up with some some way to make that interesting.
Well, I'll look forward to seeing those in the lobby for a Santa Cruz Symphony concert in the near future.
When you're open to life and you work hard and follow what feels right, life, I'd like to say, rarely lets you down. This is very much epitomizes that, both the symphony and the work that we're doing together.
I'm so grateful to be part of your musical family. You're part of ours, and it's just such a credit to Santa Cruz to have amazing human beings and artists such as yourselves here.
Well, you've helped create that that energy at Santa Cruz Symphony, so thanks for doing that and for helping bring us together.
Thank you.